In the fall of 2019, the sky always seemed gray, even when the sun was out. I remember the air felt heavy. That was the year I had a strange dream. It wasn't just any dream. It felt real, too real. In the dream, I was walking in a large, old cemetery. The tombstones were cracked, covered in moss, and some leaned to the side like they were tired. A thick fog rolled across the ground. I couldn't see far, and the silence was strange, too quiet, like the world had stopped. I wandered through the rows of graves, but I couldn't find the exit. I started walking faster. I saw the same statue again and again, a weeping angel with broken wings. It was like I was going in circles. Then I saw a man in the distance. He wore an old uniform like a cemetery groundskeeper. I ran up to him and asked, "How do I get out of here?" He looked at me with cold, empty eyes and said, "Once you're in here, there's no way out." I wanted to scream. I turned and ran, but every path led to more graves, more fog, more silence. My heart pounded. My legs were tired. I kept running until I couldn't breathe. That's when I woke up, drenched in sweat, my chest tight, like something had followed me back from the dream. I didn't tell anyone. It was just a dream, right? 2 days later, a family friend named Teresa called. She owns a flower shop that's been in her family for years. She sounded stressed. "All my drivers are out sick," she said. "Could you help me deliver some flower arrangements today? Just a few deliveries." I agreed. I needed the money and wanted to help. The first delivery was to a cemetery on the edge of town. I'd never been there before. The name was familiar though, Rose Hill Cemetery. As I drove in, I felt a strange chill, like I had been there before. The entrance gates were black iron, tall and covered in ivy. My hands started to shake. The roads twisted between hills, trees, and old statues. The deeper I drove, the stronger the feeling got, like I had entered my dream again. I parked near a small chapel and got out with the flowers. I checked the address, Plot 36, Section D. I followed the path, passing graves that looked older than anyone alive. And then I saw it, the weeping angel with broken wings. I froze. It was the same statue from my dream. I told myself it was just a coincidence, but my steps got slower. Every sound, the wind in the trees, the caw of a crow, made my heart beat faster. I dropped the flowers at the gravesite and turned to leave. That's when I noticed something. The path had changed. I had walked in a straight line, but now the road behind me curved in the wrong direction. I looked around. The graves were different. I didn't recognize any of them. It was like the cemetery had moved while I wasn't looking. I tried to retrace my steps, but it only got worse. Every path led to a new area. The sky darkened even though it was only late afternoon. The fog rolled in, just like in my dream. Then I saw him. The same man from my nightmare, the cemetery worker. He stood by a crooked tree, his face pale and eyes dark like empty holes. He didn't move. He just stared. I stepped back. "Please," I said. "Can you tell me how to get out of here?" He said the same words. "Once you're in here, there's no way out." I turned and ran. My lungs burned, but I kept going. I didn't stop until I saw my car. Somehow I had made it back. I didn't even know how. I jumped in, locked the doors, and drove away without looking back. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept seeing the angel statue in my head. A week later, I returned the delivery van to Teresa. She smiled and thanked me. But when I mentioned Rose Hill Cemetery, her face changed. "Strange place," she said. "We don't get many orders there anymore. People say it's cursed." I laughed nervously. "Why?" She lowered her voice. "My uncle used to work there, a groundskeeper. He went missing about 10 years ago. They never found him." My stomach dropped. "What did he look like?" I asked. She showed me an old photo on her phone. It was the man from my dream. I left without saying anything. I tried to forget. I really did. But dreams have a way of coming back. A month later, I had another dream. This time, I wasn't alone. There were 3 of us. A girl in a red coat, a teenage boy with a skateboard, and me. We were all lost in the same graveyard. We didn't speak at first, just walked through the fog together, like we were stuck in the same nightmare. Then the girl said, "I've been here before, every night for a week." The boy nodded. "Me too." Then we all turned and saw him again, the cemetery worker. He raised a hand and pointed to a grave with no name. And we woke up. The next day, I checked the local newspaper. I don't know why. I just felt like I had to. There were 2 obituaries. One for a high school boy who died in a skateboarding accident. One for a girl who had gone missing and was found in the woods near the cemetery. Both had died the day before my dream. I don't dream about Rose Hill much anymore, but sometimes I drive past it and I see the gate is open, just a little, like it's waiting. There are many cemeteries like it, forgotten, quiet, hidden in corners of the town. They seem peaceful in the daylight, but when the fog rolls in, something changes. People say the dead don't bother the living, but what if they want something? What if they're lonely? What if every time we dream of them, it's not just a dream, but a door? Somewhere, there's a grave with no name. It waits for the next person who asks the wrong question, takes the wrong turn, or agrees to one small favor. If you ever dream of a graveyard where the path never ends, don't talk to the man in the uniform. Don't ask how to get out. Just run and hope you wake up in time. The bridge that wasn't there. The cemetery in my hometown was bigger than any other in our area. It had been there for as long as anyone could remember, maybe longer. It sat on the edge of town, surrounded by tall iron gates and old trees that leaned in as if they were trying to listen to the dead. Everyone knew it was a peaceful place. The grass was always cut, the paths were clean, and there were flowers on many of the graves, even the very old ones. As kids, we didn't think of it as scary. My sister Emily and I went there all the time. We didn't do anything bad. We just liked to walk around, read the names on the tombstones, and sometimes leave little flowers or pebbles. We were respectful. Our friend Tyler came with us a lot too. He was a little older, but he liked old places, said they felt quiet in a nice way. One Saturday in early fall, we went to the cemetery after lunch. It was a little cloudy, but not cold. The wind was soft, and you could hear the dry leaves moving in the trees. We wandered through the back part of the graveyard, where the older graves were. Some stones were broken, and others had moss on them. Emily was taking pictures with her phone. She liked to make black and white edits later. That's when we saw it. A small white bridge. It was maybe 20 or 30 feet ahead of us, just past a group of trees. None of us had seen it before, and we'd been in this part of the cemetery dozens of times. It didn't look spooky at first, Just a clean little wooden bridge, painted white, sitting right on the grass. No creek, no ditch, no reason for a bridge to even be there. "Was that always here?" Emily asked. "No way," Tyler said. "I'd remember something like that." We walked toward it. The bridge didn't make any sound when we stepped on it. The wood was smooth and bright. It didn't look old. It looked brand new. We crossed it, laughing a little, joking about how it must lead to another world. On the other side, there was nothing different. Just more trees and old graves. When we turned around to go back, we stopped. The bridge didn't look the same. It was gray now. The wood looked rough, like it had been left out in the rain for 100 years. The paint was peeling, and one of the boards looked broken. The handrail was missing a piece. "What the heck?" Tyler said. We got closer. The air around it felt colder. I reached out and touched the wood. It was wet, like morning dew, but the ground around it was dry. My hand came back with a bit of green moss. "This is not the same bridge," Emily whispered. "But we didn't go anywhere," I said. "We just turned around." We crossed it again, quickly this time. It groaned under our feet. When we reached the side we'd started from, we all looked back. It was even worse now. The whole middle section had started to sag, and one end looked like it was sinking into the ground. We ran. We didn't look back. When we got home, we told our parents. Of course, they didn't believe us. They said it was probably a garden arch or something for a funeral, maybe a decoration. But we knew what we saw. We all saw it. The next day after school, we went back. We had to check. There was no bridge, not a single piece of wood. The grass was undisturbed. No marks from anything heavy. No holes in the ground. We walked back and forth for almost an hour trying to find it. Then we saw a man trimming some bushes. He wore the uniform of the cemetery workers, dark green pants and a jacket with the name of the cemetery on the back. Tyler went up to him and asked, "Hey, was there a bridge here yesterday?" The man stopped and looked at us like we were speaking another language. "A bridge?" he said. "Yeah, like a little wooden one, white, right over there by those trees." He stared at us for a few more seconds and then shook his head. "Kid, there's never been a bridge in this cemetery. Nothing like that." We left without saying anything else. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way the bridge changed. It didn't make sense. None of it did. Over the next week, Emily started having nightmares. She'd wake up crying, saying she saw the bridge in her dreams. Only now there was someone standing on it. A tall person in old clothes, just watching her. Then Tyler stopped coming to school. We went to his house. His mom looked tired. She said he had a fever and wouldn't get out of bed. When we asked if we could see him, she said no. That night, I dreamed about the bridge too. In the dream, I was alone. The bridge was whole again, new and white, but it was floating in the air. Underneath it, there was nothing, just black, the kind of black that swallows everything. I started to walk across, but halfway there, I heard something below me whisper my name. I woke up sweating. The next day at school, Emily didn't say much. She looked pale. "Something's wrong," she said. "I think we weren't supposed to see that bridge." We didn't go back to the cemetery, not for a long time, but the dreams kept coming. Each time, the bridge was a little different, more broken, more dark. Sometimes there were figures near it, men and women with no eyes, just empty faces. One time, I saw a little girl standing on it. She pointed at me and opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her mouth kept opening wider and wider until it looked impossible. A month passed. Then Tyler came back to school. He looked awful. He'd lost weight and his eyes had deep circles under them. He didn't talk much. When I asked him what happened, he just said, "Don't talk about the bridge." Emily and I tried to move on, but one day almost a year later, we heard something strange. A new family had moved to town. Their son, about 10 years old, disappeared one afternoon. The police searched everywhere, dogs, helicopters, the whole town. No trace. He had been last seen walking near the cemetery. We didn't say anything. What could we say? Years have gone by now. We're older. Emily moved away. Tyler moved too. I still live in the same town. I pass by the cemetery sometimes, but I never go inside. Sometimes I still dream about the bridge. It's always the same, always waiting. And I just know that one day I'll see it again. And if I cross it this time, I might not come back. The cemetery is still quiet, still clean, still peaceful. But somewhere in the shadows of those trees, something waits, something that doesn't belong. A bridge that appears only when it wants to. And if you ever see it, I hope you turn and walk the other way. Because if you don't, you may never leave. Not really. Not ever. Many years ago, there were 4 cousins who lived in different cities across America. Their names were Alex, Maya, Jordan, and Sophie. They were between 15 and 18 years old. Even though they didn't live close to each other, they were very close and talked often on the phone. They loved scary stories, mysteries, and adventures. Their grandmother lived in a small, quiet village far away from the city. Her house was old, and it stood close to an ancient cemetery. That cemetery was almost 800 years old. In the middle of that cemetery, there was an old stone well. People in the village said that nobody had used that well for hundreds of years, and some even believed it was haunted. One day while talking on a video call, the cousins made a plan. They decided that during their winter vacation, they would all travel to their grandmother's house. They would spend time with her, enjoy the holidays, and, most importantly, visit the old cemetery and check out the strange well in the middle. They were excited and nervous at the same time, but they agreed. They wanted an adventure, and this was the perfect one. When winter vacation finally arrived, the 4 cousins packed their bags and traveled to their grandmother's village. She was very happy to see them and cooked them delicious food. The house was warm and cozy, filled with the smell of baked bread and spices. For the first few days, everything was peaceful. They played board games, walked around the village, and listened to their grandmother's old stories. But on the 3rd night, the cousins remembered their plan. They wanted to explore the cemetery. They decided they would go at night when their grandmother was asleep. They waited until it was very late, around 3 a.m. When the house was quiet and everyone else was sleeping, they put on their jackets and shoes, opened the front door slowly, and slipped out into the cold, dark night. The cemetery was only 10 minutes away. As they walked, the wind whispered through the trees, and the night was completely silent, except for their footsteps. Soon, they reached the cemetery gate. It was made of iron, rusted, and old. The gate looked like it hadn't been opened in years. It creaked loudly when they pushed it. Inside, the cemetery was even scarier. The graves were old, some broken, and many had no names. The trees had no leaves, and their branches looked like long twisted fingers in the dark. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the only light came from their flashlights. They could hear their own breathing and footsteps crunching on the dead leaves. They started walking toward the middle of the cemetery. After a few minutes, Maya stopped and said, "I think we should go back. Something doesn't feel right." But Alex laughed and said, "Don't be scared. We're almost there. Let's just see the well and go back." Jordan and Sophie agreed. Maya looked nervous but didn't want to be the only one to go back, so she kept walking with them. Suddenly, they heard a noise from the right side. It sounded like someone crying or whispering. They froze in fear. No one said anything for a moment. Then Jordan whispered, "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Sophie said. "It came from over there." They all turned their flashlights to the right and slowly walked in that direction. But when they reached the place where the sound came from, there was nothing. No one was there. "We should go back," Maya said again, her voice shaking. "No," said Alex. "Let's keep going. The well is not far." So they turned back and started walking to the center again. But after a few more steps, they heard another noise. This time it was louder. It sounded like footsteps behind them. They turned quickly, shining their lights behind them. But again, there was no one. "Keep walking," Alex said, trying to stay calm. They continued, but their hearts were beating fast. The wind blew harder now, and the air felt colder. Then, out of nowhere, Sophie shouted, "Look, someone is coming!" In the distance, they saw a dark figure walking toward them. Then another, and another. They couldn't see their faces. The cousins quickly hid behind some large graves and turned off their flashlights. The figures walked slowly past them. None of them spoke. The cousins held their breath until the figures were gone. After a long silence, Jordan whispered, "Let's go back. This was a bad idea." Everyone agreed. They turned around and started walking back the way they had come. But after walking for a long time, they realized something strange. The path looked different. The graves were not the same. They hadn't passed these before. "This isn't the way we came," said Maya, starting to panic. "We're lost," said Sophie. Then Jordan started crying. "I want to go home," he said. "Why did we come here?" The others tried to calm him down. They started walking in different directions, trying to find the path they came from, but nothing looked familiar. The more they walked, the more lost they became. Suddenly, they heard voices again, but this time, the voices were all around them, whispering, laughing, crying. It was hard to tell where the voices were coming from. Then they saw shadows moving between the trees and graves. "Run!" Alex shouted. They all started running, not knowing where they were going. Their flashlights shook in their hands, the light jumping everywhere. The wind blew so hard it felt like it was pushing them back. After a few minutes, they stopped to catch their breath. Then Sophie pointed at a broken grave and said, "I remember that. We came from that direction." They followed her, and slowly, the path started to look familiar. The wind was still blowing, but the voices were gone. After some time, they finally saw the cemetery gate. They ran to it and pushed it open. As soon as they stepped outside, they all stopped and looked back. The cemetery was silent. There were no voices, no shadows, no wind, just silence. They looked at each other, and without saying a word, they started crying. They were safe now. They had made it out. When they got back to their grandmother's house, they quietly opened the door and went inside. The house was warm, and their grandmother was still asleep. They went to their rooms and didn't speak until morning. The next day, they told their grandmother everything. She listened quietly and then said, "I warned you not to go near that place. That cemetery is not like others. Strange things happen there. People have gone in and never come out." From that day on, the cousins never spoke of that night again. They stayed at the house for the rest of the vacation, but never went near the cemetery again. But the questions remained. Who were those people in the graveyard? Where did the voices come from? And why did the path change? No one knows the answers. The mystery of the cemetery and the strange well in the middle is still unsolved. And some nights, if you walk near that village, you might still hear the whispers coming from the graves. I love graveyards. Most people find them creepy or sad, but for me, they are peaceful. The trees are old and beautiful, and the paths twist like a secret maze through history. It's quiet, perfect for thinking. I go on walks there often. I guess I'm a bit of a graveyard nerd. It all started one hot summer afternoon. The sun was high, and I had walked a long way. I needed to rest, but there were no benches nearby, only old stones and one lonely crypt. The crypt was tucked into the fork of two paths. It had a flat stone top, just the right height to sit. I didn't want to be rude. Even though it was just a grave, it felt wrong to climb on it without asking. So I said softly, "Please, may I sit here and rest a while?" Then I sat down. Right away, I felt it. Knock, knock. 2 taps under me. My whole body froze. It could have been a bird or the heat playing tricks on my senses. I told myself it was nothing. But then, knock, knock. Again. This time louder, clearer. I sat very still and whispered, "I mean you no disrespect. Knock twice more if you just want me to leave." I held my breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, wham! Wham! 2 sharp knocks right where I sat, like someone was punching the stone from the inside. I jumped up so fast I almost tripped over my own feet. Okay, I'm going," I shouted, half laughing, half terrified. That should have scared me away from graveyards for good, but it didn't. The strange thing is, I went back many times. One evening, near dark, I visited again. This time, I was in the children's section. If you've never seen one, it's heartbreaking. Tiny graves, some from 100 years ago, some more recent. People leave toys on them. Stuffed bears, toy cars, little dolls. Some of the toys are so old, their colors have faded and their plastic has cracked. I'd walked through that section many times before, but I usually didn't stop. That night, something felt different. The sky was purple, the last bit of light sinking behind the trees. I stopped at the edge of the children's graves. I didn't know why, but I felt the need to speak. "Thank you for coming here," I said, "for trying to live, for trying to fulfill your destiny even if it was cut short. I'm so sorry." I stood still, watching the little toys. Some of them looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. Then I said, "Rest in peace." And suddenly, one of those old toys, a little bear with a cracked face, started flashing lights and playing music. A tiny, cheerful song played, soft and slow, like a lullaby from a music box. It was eerie and beautiful. My partner, who was with me, turned white. "Nope, nope, nope," they said, backing away. I'm going to the car." I stayed. I looked at the toy, still blinking and singing, and said, "Thank you. That was beautiful." But nothing else happened. The lights dimmed. The music stopped. The graveyard was silent again. I felt calm, not scared. I think they were saying thank you back. But the last story, that one still haunts me. It was a different graveyard, an old Moravian one, with graves from the 1500s. Some of the stones were so worn down you couldn't read the names anymore. Others had long winding writing in another language. The graveyard was built on hills, big ones. Some of the hills had mausoleums built into them, like caves with stone doors. It felt like stepping into another world. I liked to climb on top of the biggest mausoleum. From there, I could see the whole place. Graves like teeth rising from the earth, birds flying low, trees whispering. That day was calm. The sun was low, casting gold light over everything. I sat and watched the world. Then I saw a fox. At first, I was excited. I love foxes, but something was wrong. It was spinning in circles over and over again, down at the bottom of the hill, not chasing its tail, not playing, just turning, like it was dizzy or sick. Rabies. That was my first thought. Rabid animals can act like that. I didn't move. I didn't want it to see me. I hoped it would go away. But then I saw her. A woman. She appeared near the fox. I hadn't seen her before, and from where I was sitting, I should have seen everything. She wore a long dark dress. She walked slowly, heading straight toward a grave near where the fox spun. I stood up. "Hey!" I shouted. "Ma'am, watch out. There's a rabid fox." But she didn't look, didn't stop, didn't even flinch. I blinked. She was gone. No sound, no rustling, no footsteps, just gone. I looked for the fox. It was gone too. My heart pounded. I waited for a few minutes, eyes scanning the grass, hoping to see the fox run away or the woman walk back out from behind a stone. Nothing. I climbed down slowly. My hand shook. When I got to the bottom, I walked to where I had seen them. Nothing. Just a few graves, some flowers, and that same strange quiet that always blankets old cemeteries. I don't know what I saw. Maybe the heat was getting to me again. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Or maybe the graveyard was showing me something. A memory? A ghost? A warning? I don't know. But I still go back. I don't expect you to believe any of this. If I were you, I might not either. But I swear on every quiet step I've taken on those paths, on every stone I've paused to read, that these stories are true. They happened to me. They are still with me. And sometimes, when the air is just right and the wind is still, I go back and wait. Maybe for another knock, another song, another glimpse of someone who shouldn't be there. Maybe graveyards aren't as empty as we think.
If you like the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.